Plaza since November 7, 2017, and by mailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the open meetings law is available for inspection in the public meeting book located in this meeting room. Now to the consent agenda items. Agenda item number 5, board approval of the September 2017 Comprehensive Financial and Operating Report, the October 12, 2017 board meeting minutes, and the November 16, 2017 agenda. Item 6 is board approval of the 2017 SD13 Stakeholder Outreach and Communication Monitoring Report, resolution number 6209. Item 7 is board authorization to award a contract to Siemens Energy, Inc. in the amount of $787,184.52 to provide a replacement gas turbine control system for Cass County Units 1 and 2, resolution number 6212. Item 8 is board authorization to award a contract to Watts Electric Company in the amount of $800,319.47 for the procurement of labor for transmission and substation expansion in Sarpy County to support area economic development, resolution number 6213. Item 9 is board approval of the 2017 SD4 Reliability Monitoring Report, resolution number 6214. Item 10 is board approval of the restatement of the OPPD retirement plan, resolution number 6216. Item 11 is board approval of the restatement of the OPPD supplemental retirement plan, revisions, resolution number 6217. Item 12 is board approval of the retirement board appointments, resolution number 6218. If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to these items, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any board comment? All right, I will call public comment. I just wanted to say these are available for viewing on the webcast that we do at our Tuesday committee meetings. You can see those at oppd.com. The whole meetings are on there, and feel free to review. So any public comment on the consent agenda? Roll call vote.
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 13, resolution number 6210. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the revisions to Board Policy SD2 competitive rates be and hereby are approved, effective November 16, 2017, as set forth on the Exhibit A attached hereto.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, along with item number 14, this is where the Public Information Committee is asking for board approval to the changes to SD2, which deals with our rate structure. This was discussed in length at our October committee meetings, and also again Tuesday. And we also we held it over for a month last month in order to get any public input that might be forthcoming. We did receive a couple of email comments concerning this item, and upon review, we recommend approval of this resolution in the format that is in the same format that it was proposed last month.
All right, sounds good. Did we get a motion and a second on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was writing something down. I was paying attention. Is there any board comments on this? None. I just have one comment. I think it's the process is moving along very well. I think there's great discussion on competitive rates, and I like the fact no general rate increases in there, and other things that have been put in this board policy. So I commend the board. Actually, like I say, the discussion I thought was very good, and that'll be for the next one as well. So I think the process we're going through on these are moving along quite well, and thanks for any glitches along the way, but we're learning as we go. Mm-hmm. So any public comment?
David Corbin, representing the Missouri Valley Group Sierra Club. I'm glad that you at least discussed the fixed rates, but as you know, we represent, maybe you don't know, we represent over 2,000 here in the Missouri Valley Group in over 3,000 in the state, and are concerned about the fixed rate and the fact that it's not mentioned under your rates strategic directive. For all the reasons that we've stated when you first proposed it, which I won't reiterate right now, but there are many reasons why we do not feel that it's fair to all customers. And although you call it revenue neutral, for many of the customers, including me, it's not revenue neutral. It costs me and many others more money. So I would hope that in the future we'll take a look at that again. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your input and comments, Dave. Any other public comment? All right, please vote.
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Mines,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Trinan,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 14, resolution number 6211. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the revisions to Board Policy SD5, customer satisfaction be and hereby are approved effective November 16th, 2017, as set forth on Exhibit A attached hereto.
So move.
Second.
All right, Director Kavanaugh?
Mr. Chairman, just like the previous action item, this deals with Strategic Directive number 5, customer satisfaction policy. Again, this was discussed in detail in committee in October, and again was discussed Tuesday in committee. We've offered the public opportunity for the last month to submit any comments regarding the changes and so forth, and we recommend the policy as it is written, and it has not been changed since it was discussed in detail last month.
Thank you. Any other board comments?
I would, Mr. Chairman. This is going to happen very quickly, and I think it's important for those that don't see us on our Tuesday meeting. This and the other directive, as a matter of fact, take a lot of time. They take a lot of time and discussion, agreement, disagreement, wordsmithing, and to come up with a final product that we think all support and that is good for our customer owners. I think this is a piece of good work that we're going to vote on. So I just wanted to say there's a lot more to it than you see right now. For those of you watching, those of you 6 people watching on the internet, thank you.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I would echo that. It was Director Mines, Director Kavanaugh, and I are on the Public Information Committee that worked on this, and I would echo the amount of time and energy that went into this. We've got SD 13 coming soon, and that's taking just as much, if not more, time. So I'm gonna thank those board members that were involved in writing these the first time, because naturally those of us that are new are coming in asking new questions, maybe old questions, and your ability to be patient with us as we go through that is appreciated. And I would say the same for the members of management that are involved in this, because there is certainly some wordsmithing, but I do think that we've made some really meaningful improvements to these, which I think are going to be great for us in the long run. So thank you.
Great.
And I might add that there will continue to be improvements. If you look at other people's directives, such as SMUD's directive, they might have, throughout their years, they've got multiple changes in each one. And it's always a living document that continues to change and will change yearly. Not all of them, but some of them will.
I agree. And then, Kim, these can be viewed on the website, oppd.com, all the changes and all our strategic directives and other things.
They're posted right now.
Yep, okay.
And they were posted ahead of time, too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very well done, actually. So, okay, with that, any public comment on the SD5?
Again, David Corbin, Missouri Valley Sierra Club. I want to thank you for being open to exploring ways to let people electronically participate at the end. And I gathered from the committee meetings that you were going to explore that possibility, and I salute you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Vote?
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Mines,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Trinan,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 15, resolution number 6215. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the board meeting schedule for 2018 as outlined on Exhibit A attached hereto is hereby approved.
All right, Director Mines.
We need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Director Mines is.
I will. This is very simple. This is, we publish our meeting dates, monthly meeting dates in advance. It's subject to change throughout the year if we choose to do that, but this will be posted on the OPPD website, and you'll be able to see all the meeting dates. So I would offer that we approve this agenda.
All right, any comments from the board?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think that also the committee, the Tuesday committee is also going to be posted on the website too, correct?
We don't necessarily post that on the website, but we can.
I'm thinking since so much information is now being discussed at that committee, I mean, last Tuesday's meeting lasted from 8:30 till almost 2 o'clock. And it is online, and I think it's important to perhaps at least have that it's there if somebody wants to listen to it live, but also then they'll say, oh yeah, there's a large committee meeting here, maybe I should go look at that online. It's just that we have posted it.
Good point. I think that's already, we announced it's a public meeting and we go through all the public meetings, so I don't think we need to do anything. We could easily.
No, I don't think we have to vote on
We could easily
it.
publish it.
No, I'm just saying publish it
Yeah.
online. I'm not
No.
saying we have to vote on it.
But, yeah, I'm just for the record though, it is always a public meeting and we go through all the proper channels and publicize it and all that, so it's one more way to publicize it is what you're saying. And
Right.
I agree. Okay. Director Moody?
Yeah, just real quickly, this has been one that I've struggled with a little bit because we on occasion have people come to us and say, why can't you have evening meetings and or, why can't we rotate around the district? So that kind of goes back to Mr. Corbin's comment about accessibility to these meetings and knowing that, there are folks in Director Yoder's district that are quite a ways away from here, and coming downtown to Omaha can be intimidating and a long day's trip. But I do know that I think maybe in the last year or so, we did some research to try and figure out exactly when the right time would be for these meetings. And so I tend to lean on that work, to lean on that research, to trust it to tell us when the right time for these meetings are. So like I said, this is one that I've struggled with a little bit, but the other point that I would make is, I don't remember who made this point earlier, but the consistency of having them at the same time in the same place is helpful for people so that they can plan around them as well. So I'll support it.
And the other discussion that we had too about some, hopefully in the future, it depends on our IT support or whatever, that we could perhaps have people, actually ask questions via email during the meeting. We're going to be discussing that in the next year or two if we can figure out how to get that together. And that would help accessibility also, along with our live broadcasting, which is wonderful that we can have this broadcasted. I appreciate it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. Comment on the consistency of the meetings, which of course everybody remembers is the first Thursday after the 10th of every month. It's posted wrong in Diligent. It says June 14th, but in our notes here it's June 7th.
So there might not have been an update there.
That will be the
yeah.
one difference of that consistent time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point.
Scheduling conflicts.
Okay. Any public comment? Don't see any.
I have one thing to add.
Hold on.
Before Tim gives his presidential update, I just wanted to ask Mark Tynan on what his background is and why he's interested in OPPD and put his name in the hat, and just kind of your background.
Why don't we do this?
We have to vote first, yeah.
Before Tim does that, we'll stick to the agenda, get done, and then maybe give Mark that opportunity before Tim does that. So, perfect. Sounds good. Okay. I saw no public comment. Please vote.
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried.
So the next is, we're going to have a presentation from Jay Anderson. I think as we've talked to the board, we are continually looking at ways in which we can implement and expand kind of our demand side management initiatives. And this, it's really a demand response initiative. And I think our team has done some great work led by Julie Comstock and Jay Anderson and Renee, who's in the audience as well. And so we'd like to have Jay just talk about our kind of new program and our sponsorship with Nest that you're going to be hearing about over the next several weeks that will allow our customers a little bit more flexibility and capability to participate in our cool, smart initiatives. And so I think Jay's going to give that presentation today.
All right. Hey, Jay, while you're coming up, I do want to say also, part of the reason we're doing this, the consent agenda, I think it works well. It allows more time for better public presentations that fit new initiatives. And after, when you're done, I know we're going to go and have a corporate operating plan, but to kind of make room so we can have more public topics that are actually public topics and can spend more time on those. So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you, Jay, but that's kind of how we implemented the consent, and I think it will work out good. And again, when people look at on the webcast, they can learn something from the meeting, and it uses everyone's time. So with that, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks, Jay.
You bet. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and pass these around here and let you guys kind of take a look at them. Thank you for your time, and I'm very excited to come talk about a new opportunity that we have with Nest thermostats. If I can get this to work right.
Go forward.
Thanks,
There we go.
Kim.
She's magic. She's magic.
As mentioned, my name is Jay Anderson. I'm Project Director of the Power Forward Initiatives at OPPD, which are our demand-side management programs for the most part. Today, I want to give you a little bit of background about our current Cool Smart program and then move into the Nest discussion. Cool Smart is a huge piece of our demand-side management portfolio and demand response. We have a plan of achieving approximately 135 megawatts of a 300 megawatt goal with Cool Smart. Yeah, we've done very well, very successful signing up customers so far. We have 42,500 customers, which equate to about 60 megawatts. Obviously, as we've gotten more customers, signups have slowed down a little bit. The saturation is around 22%, which is getting up there for a program such as this. The customer participation signups are slowing down a little bit. So we have no intention to stop this program. It's very successful. I liken this to my parents don't necessarily want to have internet access to where people can see what they're doing. They would be very well lined up with Cool Smart in that it's a different traditional technology, not the new internet stuff. We do want to start looking, though, at Nest. And Nest Labs is owned by Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. They're a home automation producer with self-learning sensor-driven equipment. You've probably heard a little bit about some of the things they're getting ready to offer. They're getting ready to offer home security systems. They have cameras. They're going to have a new doorbell product here pretty soon with a camera built into it. They're really in that space of the Internet of Things. Their thermostat was the first thermostat to be certified by Energy Star. And since 2011, they have saved billions of kilowatts hour of energy in millions of homes. The program in particular that we're working with Nest in, we're not selling Nest thermostats. We are joining the Rush Hour Reward Demand program. And this program utilizes these two thermostats. There's two different thermostats here that you're seeing. The more traditional, older thermostat, the Nest Learning thermostat, and then the brand new Nest E thermostat. Pretty much the same thermostats. The Nest Learning has a more high color definition screen. The Nest E has a more opaque, softened screens to probably match with the motif of your paint, a little different. Obviously, the biggest thing is the pricing. The Nest higher definition one is $249. The new Nest E is $169. So we're very excited about the new offering and the new price point. What in the Rush Hour Rewards entails is we are going to manage the thermostat settings during certain days. This is to help us reduce our peak demand. We will be ready to be able to use this in May of 18. We're estimating roughly a 5 megawatt take rate, which is about 3,500 customers. There's already around 4,000 or 5,000 Nest customers in Omaha. Obviously, they may not all sign up. We're hoping they do. We feel it's an innovative product. It helps save customers money. It increases customer satisfaction and engagement. The one thing that advantage it has is two-way communicating. It lets us talk to the customer's thermostat, and it can talk back to us and tell us ready to go. It's participating. Our current CoolSmart program is a one-way communication. We talk to it, and it can't talk back. The other feature Nest does, it's really kind of a neat deal, is they produce a monthly report that shows the consumer how they're doing with their energy. They assign leafs to efficiency things. If you turn down the stat, you get leafs. If you participate in the program, you get leafs. And the one other difference, or major difference, is we can use this with geothermal programs. Typically, our geothermal systems we don't go into because those units are located in basements. They're hard to get to, and the paging signal may not be able to reach them. Also, this program pre-cools. Our current program, we do not pre-cool. We simply cycle the air conditioner, and it goes into the routine of turning it on and off at different times. And the customer has the ability to immediately opt out with this program. Currently, the CoolSmart program, the customer has to call into the call center, and then we put them in an opt-out group, and they can get out of it for that day. This one lets the customer do it right away if they choose. Some of the specific customer experiences that you would see with this is we are only going to curtail during the months of May through October. That coincides with the air conditioner running, obviously. We won't do holidays or weekends. We will only do 15 days or less per summer. We cap it at 15 days. We don't want to make people too uncomfortable to where they don't want to be on the program. We can do it 3 times a week, one event per day, from 12 noon to 9 o'clock in the evening for no more than 4 hours. We schedule 2 hours in advance for normal events. We do a 1-hour pre-cool, and then the thermostat is adjusted. The customer has the option to opt out of that program and is not penalized for that. They get a notification 2 hours prior with an email or through the app on their phone. Now, there's one other type of event that this thermostat facilitates is a critical rush hour work. This is slightly different in that we don't pre-cool. There's a 10-minute notification. These are in events where we have a power plant that has some issues or we lose a transmission line. It's a quick response. These are not used very often, if at all, during the summer. They're meant to be just for that what if, just in case.
Could you dive a little bit deeper into what you mean by pre-cool? What activity happens there?
Pre-cool is simply prior to the event, the thermostat is turned down, so it lowers the temperature in the house, and it cools the house down a little more. So we actually gain a little bit of load during those pre-hours because we're cooling off the house. Then during the event, when we shut up, we turn up the thermostat, that house will not gain back as much heat, and the consumer will be more comfortable.
Thank you.
Jay, could you tell me, like, in terms of degrees, say you have it, just give me a scenario on a hot July day of how low it goes on pre-cool and then what it would go to if you set it at 75.
You know, I'd like to say it's a typical amount, but the Nest thermostat, because it's a learning thermostat, learns about your house. It learns how cool do I have to get it to let you stay fairly cool during that whole period we're shutting you off. It learns the thermodynamics of the house based off the experience that it has day to day to day when we're not controlling. So if it finds that your house temperature, your house is poorly insulated, it would cool it off a little more or cool it for a little longer, knowing that it's going to warm up a little faster. If you've got a very tight house and it's very well insulated, it will learn that your house stays pretty constant or you're not at home a lot. It learns those things and it adjusts those temperatures to make sure that to try to keep the temperature as pleasant as possible.
Okay.
The other option too, though, just to note is, again, if you during that period say, you know what, it's just too hot, I can't take it anymore, you can go over to your thermostat or your phone, drop the temperature, and get out of that event or lessen your impact on that event. Basically, with just kind of running through the prices on these, with the $249 price and the $169 price, OPPD is proposing a $100 incentive for joining Rush Hour Rewards. Again, this is an incentive when you join Rush Hour Rewards. You have to have the Nest thermostat you've purchased and an annual participation credit of $20. That equates to roughly a 7-year payback for the $249 device and approximately a 3-year payback to the consumer with the $169 device. So,
yeah. As far as installation, you'd have to hire an electrician to install it, or how difficult is installation on
so
this?
Nest prides itself on its directions and its product presentation in regards to it comes with labels. The older one comes with a screwdriver. It shows you what wires go to where. It has videos online. They really do encourage the consumer to be able to do the installation themselves. They tell you take a cell phone picture of it when you're doing it. They're very proactive about helping the consumer. If you don't want to install it, they have a group of preferred installers in Omaha. Or if you get started installing it and go, well, I didn't expect this, you can call a number and they will get somebody there to get it installed for you. So self-installation definitely is something they promote, but they have options for people that don't want to install it themselves.
Okay, thank you.
So long story short, what's going to happen with this? First of all, we're announcing it to you guys. Again, very excited. I think this is a really cool first step into the thermostat world. Right as we're talking, the OPPD.com website under thermostat will have facts about it, about we offered it. You can go buy it at your retailer. This is when the program is going to go live, which is December 5th. Nest is planning on a very robust marketing routine in Omaha. You'll hear some more advertising. You'll see some more end caps at stores talking about the fact that your local utility can provide you an incentive for it. For existing customers, so if you have a thermostat, you will get an email from Nest saying, hey, good news, OPPD now has a program. If you're interested, hit this button and enroll. Those emails will be going out in January. Nest has found they don't like to bombard the customers with emails, and with the Christmas season, there's a lot of emails going out, a lot of new promotions. They don't want people to opt out of the emails. So they're going to probably start sending those emails in January. As for OPPD, our advertising promotion, Nest is going to do a lot, but we'll have it on our website. We will potentially have it in the outlets. We'll have it on the wire. A variety of different places reminding people that it's available and that we're excited about this program. And it is one of potentially more thermostats to come as we kind of go down this Wi-Fi thermostat journey.
Will you be targeting, individual zip codes at a time, like you did on the CoolSmart plan, or not, or just?
I think initially, they probably do have some stuff. Their Google, their analytics are incredible. They know where the best buyers are. They may be doing some of that, but they'll have promotions at the mart saying, "Hey, your local utility now is involved in this." Lowe's, Walmart. I mean, a lot of places sell them anymore. Probably some other internet type of advertising. It will be very interesting to see the whole different aspect that they provide for marketing.
Director Kavanaugh, when we did the CoolSmart program originally, it was really technician heavy to do that install with the air conditioner and tying it back into the electrical system. And so the contractor that we had could only handle so many at any one given point in time. I think you'll probably see more of a broader mass market, since many of these will be self-installed.
Right.
And so that'd be my guess.
And that brings up those people who already have CoolSmart, who have signed up for CoolSmart, might have buyer's remorse and rather have this Nest.
Great question.
So how are you going to handle that?
We are going to let them switch. So if they want to go to Nest, we will they'll let us know. We'll come and remove their AC management device, and they will buy the Nest thermostat and enroll in that program.
Okay. And those that have already signed up for it, but it hasn't been installed yet, are you going to give them the option ahead of time to maybe save time and money as far as the installer?
We will watch for them, definitely.
Yeah, quite a few of the homes in my district have 2 air conditioning units, 2 furnaces, 2 thermostats.
Right.
My own home does. How do you deal with that?
We will provide 2 incentives. You'll be able to buy 2 devices and get 2 incentives. We want every air conditioner in the house on the program if we're going to do it.
But it would still only be $20 a month, not another $40.
It would be $40 a month for that situation because you have 2 units.
Pardon?
The annual credits.
Yeah, annual credit, not a month. I'm just wishing,
You'll get, yeah. If you have 2 devices, you'll get $200 credit and then $40 at the end of the season every year.
Hey Jay, who at OPPD makes a decision on curtailment? One of the days and some of those things.
It's part of our power marketing group and dispatch group. They're looking at the market positions. They're looking at the units. They're looking at what's going on with the weather. It's just like a generating unit.
The marketing group. Yeah.
One of the prerequisites, though, you have to have an Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
It has to be high speed. It can't be dial up or anything like that.
No, it needs to be a normal 802.11 Wi-Fi.
802.11 Wi-Fi.
I hate to say high speed because some people go crazy with their Wi-Fi devices and buy the top of the shelf. It has to be a normal Wi-Fi system.
Normal Wi-Fi system.
Very exciting. Other questions? Go ahead.
Sure. On the previous slide, you talked about 7-year and 3-year payback. Presumably, people have been buying these already without this program, and they've been doing it for a different equation of payback, correct?
Right. Yeah. So obviously, one of the Nest does tout the fact that they do save energy, both kilowatt hours and gas. So yes, some people do it to be more energy efficient. Some people like the Wi-Fi capability of it to be able to dial to their phone and look at it. Some people like it because it's just new and neat, and it's got a nice screen on it. It shows the weather. So there's a variety of reasons, but you bet, yeah, there'll be those people that have already bought it, and they get to participate in this program just like a brand new one. They sign up, they get the credit regardless of when they bought it, if they are an OPPD customer.
Sure.
And take service from us.
And I think what you're going to see in the next presentation by Javier is we're seeing a relatively flat load, and it's because of these technologies that have come into play that have reduced energy consumption. Even though we see growth in our service territory, we see energy load remaining flat for relatively long periods of time, certainly our 5-year planning horizon. And so I think it does impact the current load, and customers have taken advantage of it. So.
And it is one of many thermostats out in the market. There's getting to be more and more of them all the time, and we are going to be looking at those other thermostats in the future.
People who already have, like there's, I'm thinking of the Highline apartment, has already completely staffed with Nest and everything.
Right.
How are you going to connect to them? Because it sort of varies. People come in and out pretty quickly sometimes.
So Nest has started to realize that multifamily dwellings are something that they want to accommodate. So they are looking at some new interfaces for apartment complexes that let the apartment manager still have control of all the stats, but let the individual apartment dweller maintain it while they're in it. So they are looking at some new features for that. We are focusing on single-family houses. If we're not trying to encourage, if you're in an apartment, go buy one and don't tell the landlord. That's not the intent. The intent is we are focusing on households, but if we're hopeful very soon the apartment interface will come in as part of this, and the apartments will be easier to integrate as a whole facility. And Nest has told us they are working on that as we speak.
Jay, one more question. Has another utility in the nation done this program, or has Alphabet?
Yeah, lots of, actually KCPL has a fairly good sized program, Austin Energy. There are quite a few utilities across the United States that are using either Nest or Honeywell or Ecobee. Nest is definitely one of the more popular ones at the time.
And where does this fit under the blanket of consumer demand or the reduction? I know that's part of our plan to cut 300 megawatts or our plan, or future operating plan. Where does it fit under the umbrella of what's attached to your AC unit in this? Are they twins, or are they
I think they're
second generation?
I think they're maybe definitely kind of twins, maybe not identical. I don't want to get into genetics too much here. But anyway, they are definitely twins. To me, again, it's kind of like my parents. They're not going to want anybody on the internet looking at what their house is doing. They don't want that. Why? They don't have a smartphone that they're going to use. Versus myself or my kids, they want everything on their hand right then and there. So to me, it's a slightly different offering in how you can talk to it, how you can control it, the way that it's the security. And I mean, they're both very secure, but they're just different ways of dealing with that security and the way you talk to them. So it is part of that 135 megawatts that we need to make up. So we may get 60 from AC management devices, SchoolSmart. This hopefully continues to build. We add our thermostat. We just continue to build to that 135, but not just with one product.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Residential only, I would assume?
Residential only.
Okay.
Some people may have condos or duplexes where their units were located too far away from to be on CoolSmart. They didn't have the right configuration. They might be able to take advantage of this. We'll be looking at other applications in the future. Apartments, I'm hoping, are coming quick.
Sure.
So there potentially could be other applications in the future.
And
we feel like this is a good way to jump in, get familiar with it, and continue to offer more and learn and see how it works in
Yeah,
comparison.
with a program that other utilities have offered, so it's reasonably predictable.
It's duplicatable.
So to that end, we're at 22% market saturation for CoolSmart. Any sense for what potential market saturation might be for something like this?
It's really hard to tell. I've seen a lot of projections about this is the wave of the future. This is one of the most hot markets. You know, the whole Internet of Things is just starting to pick up, especially with the cameras. Nest with the security system to me is the next big thing. And then this ties in with Alexa or Google Home Assistant. So if you can actually get Alexa to answer to you right when you go to say something, which I have a tough time sometimes, but it's just that new direction that we're going, and I think it's going to be have a significant penetration. I just don't have a prediction for it right now.
Yeah, we don't have any sense for what other utilities have seen in terms of penetration.
It's varied. I mean, a lot of them had some of these older technologies. They're migrating there too.
Sure.
At 13%. The other caveat is the new Nest E. That's a $169 product, so we're thinking that there'll be a push for that because it's has so much investment right up front.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful for 3 to 5,000.
I, like Mark, have 2 units, not because I have a big house. It's just my house is very poorly designed. $500 is a tough thing to put out for $169 each. Now that I get a credit, we'll probably be putting one on each unit.
And we'll certainly work with the Heating and Cooling Contractors Association as we do, and the builders as well, as they begin to think about how do they install these as a base system.
Absolutely, we've met and talked with them too.
As far as cyber risk, what are we doing as far as Cape Brown's area to prevent any type of hacking or whatever of this? Because I would think this is just one more little thing that somebody could try to hack into.
Well, okay, so just to be real clear, this is a Nest thermostat and a Nest communication route to the device. OPPD logs into a separate Nest portal to do the load control. Nest controls its security. Nest is in charge of security. That is Nest ballgame. Google, if I had to pick one company, and maybe Kate would agree with me, would probably be one of the better ones I would pick for security. They're in that world. They're living that world. They're protecting things. All the manufacturers are very careful about it, but I think Google, right now has probably got a pretty good start on the security on it.
But as far as on our side, are we having to add additional measures?
So
my question is.
Currently, we haven't had to offer. So just let me state this: there's always upgrades and updates to our software all the time to protect us from hacking and things like that. We also take prudent practices in our logins and our sign-ins and working with IT to make sure everything that we go to touch, we're protecting. One of the beautiful things about the older system is it uses a paging network. So to communicate with the devices, it's not something you can hack into typically, because it's not, you can hack into one spot and get into the whole network. You'd have to hack into maybe a paging system, and that paging system is an older style paging system. So that provides us some protection, as well as not very many people carry pagers anymore. I mean, we have a pretty good paging market in Omaha. A lot of the fire departments, we still use them for Fort Calhoun's, emergencies and such. They still have pagers, so it is a very, in my opinion, it's one of the safer technologies still, because it's a little bit older and not as mainstream.
All right.
Can I ask one more question?
Yep.
So you kind of hinted at the fact that there are other technologies, other similar systems out there. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what the expansion process, the due diligence might be for exploring other service providers?
So we went through an RFP process when we chose Nest. We had 4 or 5 different companies come in. They gave us their prices. Nest was very attractive, as well as their technology, their look, their feel, and this new unit price. The other companies bid. We went through it, considered them, and decided to start with one.
Sure.
Probably next week we're going to send that same RFP out again. Okay. And by talking with the HACA professionals, heating and cooling, there's some of the actual equipment manufacturers that make their own thermostat. Right. I'm going to reach out to them again. Hey, if you're interested, the bid's going out, or the RFP is going out, please bid, and we'll be looking at those bids in the future months to look at the cost for us to get in, as well as the simplicity, as well as the take rates and all the fun stuff, to say this would be the next successful program.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? All right. Very good. This is a presentation of the board, so there's no public comment on this. However, we do have public comment at the end of the meeting, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, that you can talk about this or whatever you want. So thanks very much. It's
Go buy a
exciting.
nest. Thank you.
Until we next time. Thanks.
Get internet first.
All right, Javier, we're gonna give our preliminary corporate operating plan, and I stress the preliminary. This will be posted as well, right? Will this be posted for next
correct.
month?
Yeah.
And we'll actually have a vote on this next month.
Yes.
And we'll probably discuss it at our meeting next, or pre-meeting. or
Correct.
Committee meeting, I'm sorry, next month too. So there's plenty of time. This is preliminary. Go ahead, Javier.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Javier Fernandez, Chief Financial Officer at OPPD, and it is my pleasure to stand here in front of you and presenting the draft corporate operating plan. Very proud of being part of an organization that can accomplish so much, that can do these type of innovative programs, that can remain financially sound, and still propose a budget for next year that for the second year in a row has a no general rate increase. It is phenomenal in my opinion, and I'm pleased to present something like this tonight. I'm going to start with the first bullet point here. There are no revenue adjustments that we're proposing for next year. That means a no general rate increase. Under the current rate restructure, fixed charges will continue to go up as scheduled, but the energy charge will continue to go down. And on average, for the majority of our ratepayers, will not experience a general rate increase. There might be a few exemptions, as Mr. Corbin noted, but this was designed specifically so that we didn't have any revenue adjustments. We will continue to live within our means. Retail energy sales, Tim Burke mentioned, we're seeing pretty flat load. People continue to move into Omaha, people like me and others who are moving into the area. I drive pretty much every day outside on the west side of Omaha and Elkhorn, and you see all these developments happening. But we're not seeing the demand really growing at the same rate. And what happens is we're seeing a lot more people using more energy efficient appliances and homes that are saving more energy. So we're seeing a pretty flat load. You can see that retail energy sales that we're projecting for 2018, it's just a 0.1% increase from what we are seeing in projections for 2017. So pretty flat energy consumption. On wholesale revenue, it's a little bit different story. We're seeing market prices continue to drop. We are not seeing the same wholesale revenue that we used to see in years past. So we cannot count on that wholesale revenue to continue to subsidize our rates the same way that it has in the past. We have prepared a very conservative budget. We assumed into this next budget a 24.4% decrease from the wholesale revenue we are experiencing in 2017. Now, it is possible that the wholesale revenue may pick up next year, and we will obviously take it and we will try to maximize as much as we can. But going into the budget, we're going in with a conservative assumption, knowing that market prices will continue to be depressed and that we cannot continue to count on that revenue. On the expenditure side, capital and operating and maintenance expenditures, again, planned to maintain the system. The lights are still on, very committed to providing reliable service, good customer service. So everything that's in the budget for us to continue to provide that service is again, looking at no decrease, in fact, an increase in quality of service. Tuesday, we had a good conversation about reliability, how we continue to provide reliable service, we continue to provide good customer experience. All of those things will continue to happen under the current budget. Big project for Calhoun Station decommissioning. It's going on really, really well. We continue to execute really well in 2017, and this is a project that will continue well into 18 and beyond. That is another big expenditure that we're keeping our eye on and will be funded in this coming year. Financing. you probably know or don't know what my background is as an investment banker. I used to put people into debt. And it is refreshing coming here knowing that, and you know, there's a time and a place for people to issue debt, and that's a good instrument. But it is amazing for me to know that we have a financial structure that allows us to pay cash, pay as you go for capital improvements. This is something that didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen overnight. It's a product of planning, multi-year planning from my predecessor and other people behind. And we are planning on continuing to fund our entire capital investments with cash this coming year. I do add a caveat here that there might be an opportunity for us, if depending on how market conditions change, we may be able to continue to optimize our debt portfolio, and we may be able to replace old debt, if it's at a higher interest rate, with new debt at a lower interest rate, but in no case expanding the amount of debt outstanding. The Rate Stabilization Reserve account was established many years ago. It is currently funded at $42 million. We established a goal of $50 million, and we're proposing to deposit $8 million this year into that account and fully fund that Rate Stabilization Reserve account, which I think is another component of this fiscally responsible plan. This year, we've had really good results in the secondary market. Wholesale revenues continue to be positive. We continue to achieve savings on the expense side. And we believe that we will have an additional $24 million generated in cash for this fiscal year. We've actually talked about many ways that we can use this $24 million in 2017. And it is my recommendation that we deposit that in the decommissioning and benefit reserve account that was created a few years ago to continue to create a contingency amount for potential additional decommissioning expenses or benefit reserves to continue to fund our pension fund, which continues to be funded at about 70% today. In 2018, this budget also accounts for an additional $9 million of cash that would be also deposited into this reserve, growing this reserve from $24 million to $33 million. It provides the board with flexibility to use those funds in the future as decommissioning work continues to happen, for us to decide should we deposit that should we use that for decommissioning expenses or to fund benefits, which, again, they're unfunded. This is not to fund anything above and beyond. It's just to catch up from the 2008 losses that everybody in the country experienced. For Calhoun Station, as I mentioned, we continue working really well on the Safe Store implementation. Mary Fisher's group continues to work on all cylinders, and that will definitely be the case in 2018. We have a few planned outages on our generation plants. Nothing large, nothing of big magnitude. I believe that those outages probably will come in 2019 and beyond. But we do have a few planned outages here for 2018, which are budgeted for. This is a graph that shows retail revenue pretty flat. This is, again, in the same tone as we're seeing flat loads, pretty flat revenue. You can see the breakdown there between residential, commercial, industrial, and governmental and muni. Pretty much the same as 2017, which was pretty much the same as 2016. This is the no rate increase shown in a graph. You can see the increase from 2015 to 16, where there were some rate adjustments, but starting in 2016, we're looking at staying with a flat retail revenue. We're planning to live within our means. Wholesale revenue, this tells the story that I mentioned earlier today. Those amounts have continued to come down as natural gas prices continue to drop. The prices we're getting in the secondary market from power we sell continue to drop, and of course the revenue continues to drop. Now, there's a flip side on that, which is good. When we purchase power, there are times when we purchase power, we're also purchasing at lower prices. So it works both ways, but on a net basis, the amount of wholesale revenue we're generating continues to drop, and we believe that what we've put in the budget is conservative enough, and I think it's realistic. That gives us a good footing to start the year without counting on revenues that may not materialize. Other operating revenue and non-operating income includes transmission wheeling service, transmission wheeling revenue, investment income, other electric revenues, products and services. Those ones continue to increase as we continue to expand our territory. We continue to be a more active participant on SPP and serve other customers. We believe that this rate of growth is sustainable, and we feel comfortable with projecting an increase of $2 million from $41 million to $43 million. Okay, so how do we make this work? We have pretty flat revenues on the retail side, declining wholesale revenues. How are we going to make this work? Well, through a lot of work from a lot of people. You can see what we're proposing here on operating and maintenance expenses is for those to stay pretty flat. To go from $638 million we are projecting in 2017 to $647 million, just a very modest increase of $9 million, which is less than 1.5%, significantly lower than inflation. So what happens is all of our services cost more. The amount that we pay for our vendors, materials, salaries continue to cost more, and what we're doing to offset those increases is really relying on our cost and process improvement initiative, lean processes to continue to do more with less and find efficiencies in the organization so that we can continue to operate with virtually the same amount of money we had last year. And these, by the way, there's a footnote. It excludes Fort Calhoun Station decommissioning expenditures. And you can see the big difference here from 2016 to 17 when the board decided to decommission the plant. That used to be a part of the O&M. Now it's not O&M. Now it's categorized as decommissioning expenses. So that's the big drop that you see from 2016 to 17. Now, those expenses didn't go away. Now, we decided to decommission that plant, and it cost a lot of money to decommission that plant. That's what you see here in front of you. In 2017, we're projecting all costs included to have spent approximately $135 million towards decommissioning efforts. And we're planning a similar amount for 2018. It's not a small number. I believe that between 2016, 17, and 18, we will spend close to $300 million towards a $1.2 billion project. It's a significant amount of work that we continue to do, and very proud of the work that Mary Fisher and her team continue to do at Fort Calhoun. Very dedicated employees continue to deliver. Capital expenditures. So this is one area where we are increasing expenditures. Right? We're increasing investment in our capital plan. As an electric utility, we are heavy in assets. We're capital intensive. We are nothing without our assets. I tell that to my teams all the time. So we need to make sure that we continue to invest in our assets, our generating plants, our transmission, distribution assets, information technology, all of the assets that make this organization thrive. In 2017, we project to invest about $123 million in capital. And for 2018, that amount is increasing to $148 million. And you will see in a moment some of the larger projects. Some of those projects is really to restore some of the damage we saw this past year from the storm in June. So again, we need to rebuild some of those lines and make sure that we continue to provide good service to our ratepayers. The majority of the investment, and as you can see here, for the past 3 years and going into 18, is going to be on our transmission and distribution business unit. Long miles of distribution lines and transmission lines, wood poles, towers, substations, transformers, you name it, and they're old. They continue to age, so we continue to invest under the transmission and distribution investment program. Other The other category is one that we're expanding significantly. You can see that the difference between 2017 and 16 into 2018, we're almost doubling the amount of investment in other. If you're guessing, I hope that you're guessing right, and that is information technology. We have talked for many, many years about the technological debt that we have, that as we continue to move into this new utility of the future, we just talked about Nest, we talked about integrating into these markets. All of these things require computers and systems, and they need investments. And we believe that there's a really, really good opportunity for us to continue investing in our information technology infrastructure and catch up with the time so that we can support all of these other programs that we're proposing. You can see also a notable change here is the fossil production capital investment is decreasing from 2017 into 18, and that's because we are not planning any major outages in 18, but expect that amount probably to increase in 2019 when we will have major outages for maintenance and capital investment. You can see here it's a list. It's just a sample list of some of the larger capital programs we have. At the top of the list, you have the Elkhorn River Valley Transmission Line, the Transmission and Distribution Improvement Program. That's all the different things that we're doing to invest in our transmission and distribution system. Something that I'm calling out separately is the rebuild of Circuit 3480 that was caused by the storm damage in this past year. You can see business technology, 3 major projects. It's just a sample. There are many more projects, but this is just a sample of the major projects we're funding with capital this coming year. Trucks and construction equipment on general plant projects, and we're making an investment on a lime optimizer for the Nebraska City 2 unit. I already mentioned this story. We're not planning on issuing any net new debt in 2018, something I'm very, very proud of. It continues to strengthen this organization. We're adding capital, we're paying off debt. It makes our financial structure, our cost structure, a lot more nimble. The lower the interest expense I have to pay, the more I can adapt and really direct our dollars in the best possible way without necessarily having to pay a large amount of interest expense. On a net income basis, we're projecting to end 2017 with about $76 million of net income. You can see here where we're making the proposal to transfer $8 million to the rate stabilization reserve that I mentioned earlier, and $24 million to the decommissioning and benefit reserve. And that will basically match, it will leave us with a net income that matches our original projections. Coming into 18, we're planning the proposed budget you have in front of you has an $89 million net income target that would also generate a $9 million cash surplus to continue building the decommissioning and benefit reserve. This, of course, it's all in budget. We'll see what the actuals end up saying. Rate stabilization account balances, as I mentioned earlier, we started the year in 2016 with $33 million. We added $9 million through the course of 16. To today, we have $42 million between contributions and earnings. And that $42 million we're proposing to deposit another $8 million by the end of this year, getting us to the $50 million target for the rate stabilization account. Decommissioning and benefit reserve account balances, as I mentioned, we're proposing to start. This account has existed for a number of years. It's not funded right now, and we're proposing to start funding it this year since we had a positive year with $24 million and then increasing that by $9 million next year. Okay, I want to spend a little bit of time on this one because this is a really, really good story to tell. Before the decision of decommissioning Fort Calhoun Station, it was our responsibility to fund a decommissioning reserve fund. Every single nuclear plant in the nation has this requirement. Say when the plants end their license and they decommission, we need to have enough money there because it costs a lot of money to decommission these large plants. We started in 2016 with about $382 million in that fund. We made a decision to decommission the plant, and immediately in 2017, we started spending money on decommissioning the plant. However, you see that the fund grew. That means that we continue to deposit monies in this fund, and even though we are using those monies to spend on the decommissioning, what we're depositing is more than what we're spending. Again, showing the financial commitment of this organization that we're growing this fund to have the strength to continue funding those decommissioning expenses for as long as the decommissioning process lasts.
Javier, the money in the decommissioning fund, is that money invested in any way, or is that
For sure.
allowed? It is.
It is invested in different securities and governed by very strict rules, governed by the NRC. And not only is it governed by the NRC from the investment perspective, but also what can we use those monies for have to be exclusively for these type of expenses.
And we used to have 2 decommissioning funds. Do we still have 2 decommissioning
We do,
funds?
and both of them are represented in
Is this
here.
combined?
Correct.
Okay, that's my question. Yeah.
And the trend will continue. This budget shows that after spending money for 2018 decommissioning activity, we will continue to grow this fund to the tune of $29 million more, from growing it from $420 million to $449 million, which again, it shows the fiscal discipline, and it is a really, really good message to show back to the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that we are funding and that we are staying true to our commitment.
And does that 2018 budget include anything from, that does not include the decommissioning and benefit fund? That's separate, correct? That wouldn't be in there. You haven't.
That is correct. That is separate.
You're not planning on funding that right now?
Nope.
Correct? Okay.
But if for some reason those
happens.
expenses get out of line and we end up needing more than what we have in here, that's one of the uses that we could use
Right.
out of the
You just weren't there.
decommissioning and benefit account. Correct. Debt ratio. These might be boring to many here. It's something that I'm passionate about, so I'm going to spend just a few seconds talking about these. Debt ratio, in a nutshell, tells us how leveraged we are. For every dollar of assets we own, how many dollars we owe. In this case, in 2015, for every dollar of assets we owned, we owed 51 cents on that dollar. Similar to your mortgage, you can do the math in your head. It's how much of your house do you still owe. A 51% ratio is phenomenal. It's really, really low compared to the rest of the nation, compared to other large utilities, and it is a very healthy ratio. What happened in 2016? Well, in 2016, we did not issue any debt. In fact, we haven't issued debt in 16, 17, or 18. We haven't issued any new debt. So what happened here is one of those big assets we owned for Calhoun Station stopped being considered an asset from an energy production perspective, and it was taken out of the equation. So it's no longer considered an asset from an accounting perspective, and that really is what caused the jump. And as we continue to make other investments in other assets and we continue not issuing debt, this debt ratio will continue to drop. I expect in the next 5 years back to the level that we started in the low 50%. Coverage ratios is a really, really important coverage, a really important metric for OPPD, and I would posit that it is probably the single most important ratio that we use and that we build our budget and our financial structure around. What the debt service coverage ratio tells us is you have operating revenues. Once you pay operating expenses, how much money you have left to pay that service. In this case, the one metric that I'm very interested in is that green line in the middle, total debt. Senior debt, subordinate debt, all the debt we owe. And what this number tells me is that I have operating revenues after paying operating expenses. I have a net operating revenue. That amount is double what I need to pay that service. So I use 1/2 of that amount to pay that service, and the other half is what I use to pay for capital projects. This is how we can make our capital investments with cash. And it's something that it didn't happen by accident. It's something that we have built through time, and it is a very healthy practice, in my professional opinion, to have such a fiscal discipline that we have a high coverage ratio that allows us to have this flexibility and pay for these capital projects with cash. The fixed charge is below it, and it also includes not only our debt service but any other fixed charges. And rating agencies lately have been discussing, for example, PPAs, right? Our commitment to buy power through a power purchase agreement, it's pretty firm, right? So should it be treated as debt or not? And rating agencies have different methodologies, but we are including some of those in some of the fixed charges, showing that even when you include those fixed charges, our coverage is 1.7, which is pretty healthy.
So that does include our PPAs.
Some of it, and it will continue to evolve depending on how the formula evolves, but it includes some of it. My guess is that more and more of the PPAs will continue to be included. So this number may come down to maybe 1.6 in the future. Very healthy. The comparable metric for the rest of the utilities in the nation is 1.1. Just to give you an idea, and we're still at a 1.6 and 1.7. Really healthy. Another point of comparison, the 2 times debt service coverage, that is our own internal requirement. Our official legal requirement with bondholders is 1.4 times. So we have built this up even further away from that 1.4 minimum requirement, again in the spirit of having a strong financial organization. Okay, days cash on hand. This is our liquidity. This is our working capital. Being such a large organization, $1.1 billion of expenditures every year, you need to have cash in the bank. Revenues don't always come in at the same time as you have to make expenditures. Some of our expenditures are pretty large, debt service being one of them, and we need to have enough cash in the bank to float some of those expenditures before revenues come in. This is our working capital. As this organization continues to transform, and we decommission our nuclear plant, we are adding more wind, we're adding more PPAs, we're trying to solve different sets of issues that we've had in the past, like market capacity. How do we make these new combination of generation resources work? We need to be flexible. We need to have enough liquidity to make sure that we can make all of these adjustments and pay for these capacity and pay for all of these services that we're offering throughout the year. We're recovering 100% of our expenditures through rates, but within the year, this days cash on hand metric helps us, and it really builds us as a strong utility. And I would say that this is one of the metrics that supports our current credit rating from Moody's and Standard & Poor's. That really, it's really high and strong, and it allows us to operate.
Javier, is there a magic number of days we probably shouldn't exceed? At some point it's become not wasteful, but where we should possibly reallocate some of the excess? Are we even approaching that at all yet or not?
Excellent question, and I believe we're getting close to that. I believe somewhere in the 250 days, you definitely have to start looking at what do we do with these, right? Keeping money in the bank is great, but keeping money in the bank is not efficient. Yeah. So there's a sweet spot, I believe. 125 days cash is on the very low end. We never want to be down there. Yeah. 250 days cash is where we would start having conversations. So I expect in the next year or two we may start having those conversations, which is a really good problem to have. What do we do with it, right? Sure. We may have large capital investments coming up here in the next few years, and this would allow us to make those investments without necessarily causing too much disruption in our financial structure. NewGen Strategies and Solution is a company that we've hired for a few years, and this is really a consultant for the board. What this company does is they come in and they've actually had interviews with many people around the organization. As we present this corporate operating plan, this is a third-party consulting firm that says, are you forgetting something? Are you sure that you're investing the right amount in the right places? And it's a third-party opinion that the board will get a report in December to say this budget not only delivers a no general rate increase, and it delivers not only what I just described to you, but in their opinion is a solid plan that is not financially imprudent. So I think that's a report that you should see in December from this company. So don't just take my word for it. There's going to be someone else attesting to this. So in summary, this is again, it is a true accomplishment, I think, for the organization that we're ending 2017 in such a strong position, and we're starting 2018 with such a good message to provide affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive energy service to our customers. That's our number one strategic directive. We will continue to do that, and we are very committed to delivering on that strategy. In addition, the board just adopted the revision to Strategic Directive 2 of a no general rate increase for 5 years. This is going to be year 2 of this commitment, and I'm very, very pleased that we can make this happen through a lot of hard work here in the organization. We are also making sure that we're making investments to sustain that system reliability that we have been so proud in the past, and we're not bargaining with that. It's something that's really, really serious, and we will continue to make those investments to be reliable. And Strategic Directive 7. Our forecast for the end of 2017 is that we will have 30% of the retail energy provided to our region will come from renewable resources. The last number I saw was 29.7%. So it is to me an amazing accomplishment in such a short time, transforming this organization to deliver 30% so quickly. Not without a lot of pain, not without a lot of investments, and something that we're keeping our eye on, but it is something that we can make happen within the budget that we're presenting here. Are we done? No. There are a lot of opportunities for us to continue to manage our expenditures. And in fact, you at the committee meeting on Tuesday, you heard from Joe Wazak on the Cost and Process Improvement Initiative. The work is not done by any means. We will continue. We have teams today, lean teams at the different plants, looking at opportunities to do more with less resources, and that is something that I think is now in the DNA of this organization, and we will continue to find opportunities to do that. We will continue to manage the Fort Calhoun Station decommissioning expenditures. It is the largest project this organization has undertaken in decades, and it's something that we're very focused to make sure that we deliver really well, on time, under budget. We will continue to prioritize and manage capital investments. This is going to be an area where we're going to be working really hard in the future to make sure that we can provide you with information, telling you that we're spending the right dollar in the right place and the right time, in the right sequence, so that we can continue to keep the lights on. And again, all of this is while identifying and managing risk. We have a solid risk plan, and we're really making sure that all of these investments are not without assessing and managing and mitigating the different risks we have. Today, this concludes my presentation on the draft corporate operating plan. And as Director Gay mentioned, this is, maybe you haven't mentioned this, yeah, but this is probably going to be out for public comment and come back next month for your approval.
Yeah, and Javier, on that, there were some questions thrown at you here. What I was thinking, I mean, feel free to ask questions, I guess, but you know, you got a month between now and then to talk to Javier. This first glance, he handed out the book to look at. We're not going to do the budget right here today anyway. Yeah. So what I was wondering, very good presentation, by the way.
I do have one, not a question, but one more thing that he could mention. He mentioned bonds, and I wonder if he could just tell what our bond rating is right now and whether or not it's expected to remain stable, I assume, but I think a lot of people in the audience don't know about our bond rating, what it is and how good it is.
Correct. So the bond rating is akin to our credit rating personally, right? So we have third-party organizations that look at us and assess our credit worthiness. And there's a scale different scales for different companies, but we are currently rated by Moody's Investor Service and Standard & Poor's. And our credit rating from both agencies is AA2 and AA. We are just 2 notches below the AAA, which is the highest possible rating. I believe, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I believe we're one of only 4 large public power entities in the country that has such a large credit rating. Something I'm very, very proud of, and something that Tim Burke holds me.
That's why I wanted you to mention
that
this.
we keep it that way.
What a toot our horn.
Thank you for the question.
I have a question. It ties back to Jay's presentation as well. And I'm just confused as to where this goal is. Is it in this plan or another plan? Jay mentioned the Cool Smart goal is 135 megawatts of the 300 megawatt goal. Where is that goal?
Okay, on that question, that'd be a good one to, are we going to discuss that next month, or when you say where's that goal as far as whole operating plan, or?
Yeah, is it in the operating plan, or is it?
No, it's really in our demand side management and energy efficiency initiative. Again, that we typically shared with the board. Julie, if you could help me, March, April timeframe.
Well,
But
the reason I ask is that it shows up as a revenue consideration.
To your question, when we prepare this corporate operating plan, there's a lot of work that goes into the load forecasting. Yeah. And it is included in there. We have not only that initiative, we have many other initiatives. We're looking at demographic growth, we're looking at load patterns, and there's a team that does nothing else but forecast that demand, and it is included in this corporate operating plan.
Thank you.
So, okay, so those questions, what we're gonna do then, Tim, I'll turn it over to you to explain to this, but obviously we can always reach out to you, Javier, and I know we do. But so between now and then, what's the best way for board members to have input, or the public to give input to a board member to give to? Explain the rest of the process between now and December 14th.
Sure, certainly. If there are questions from the public, you know, they can certainly go online to OPPD listens.com. They can go through the board contacts and make that inquiry, and we'll respond to those inquiries. Certainly the board can have direct access to Javier or myself. And we'll make sure that we get whatever question you may have, or clarification that you may have, or understanding that you may have, similar to Director Yoder's question. Javier understood it, I didn't. So you may want to just go to Javier in that regard. Yeah, there you go. Very good. So that would be my recommendation, is that we do that if you have those questions. And certainly what we'll try to do is to compile those questions at the next month as we talk to the board at committee, and then with the resolution next month, in hopes that the corporate operating plan would be approved. It is important. We need to have the board approve that in order for us to make expenditures in 2018. So it's pretty critical for the board to approve the corporate operating plan. We think it's sound. We think it's just. We think it's has a conservative perspective. And again, there's no general rate increase that is planned for 2018.
So my plan would be then we'll have plenty of time to make comments on the budget next month, you know, but and add input for the whole month. But anyway, just in the interest of time, is that okay with everybody? If you got a burning question, I mean, feel free to answer it right now.
Yeah, I guess I've just got one high level one. My dinner's not cold yet.
Well, hold on 1 minute. I'm not rushing through the meeting if that's what you're suggesting. This is such a complex budget that there's a lot of things to cover that.
Totally get it.
Okay. I don't know if they're prepared for that.
And Javier and I are going to have another discussion with a lot of detailed questions later, but there's one just kind of high level question that I had. I'm interested in what you see as the biggest risk, right? Like what you just shared was a lot of really good news. We're headed in a great direction. Financially speaking, we're extraordinarily sound. Stepping back from that, from a risk perspective, are there things is there a big risk or two that you see as causing some concern about what you're projecting for 2018?
Yes. There are different risks, and I think there are different mitigating instruments we have. One very imminent risk that I see today, the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. passed a tax reform that is now going to the Senate. That bill includes many changes to the tax code that could affect many of the things that we do here.
Sure.
Our ability to refinance bonds, subsidy we get from on interest expenses on certain bonds, like Build America bonds, is at play. Production tax credits that we rely on, and it is part of our construct as we continue to pursue more wind. So those are things that will happen,
Sure.
or may or may not happen, and that is a risk. But it is something that I believe, having the financial structure that we have today, we are in a very good position to withstand those swings. We have a good capital position, we have a good liquidity position, low debt load, factors that not every utility has, frankly. And I think we are in a really, really good position to change and adapt to these changing environments. Some other risks, and I wouldn't say necessarily a risk, but we have, again, we have the decommissioning project. I believe I have every proof of evidence that we're doing a really, really good work there. But it's a large project, so it's something that we are keeping a close eye on. Making sure that we're investing in the right assets, making sure that we're not neglecting parts of the system, making sure that we stay ahead of the curve, that we know what is the next asset we're going to need before it hits us. But I would say those are more risks that are mid to long term, not necessarily short terminating.
Yeah, thank you.
I think one of the advantages in this program, as we've looked at the rate stabilization fund, is to move that rate stabilization fund to 50 million, begins to mitigate from a financial perspective some of that risk that we may have in certain situations where we wouldn't have to come midterm, mid-year for potential rate increase, right? And what that impact would be. We're able to use that rate stabilization fund to hedge off or to mitigate some of that risk that may occur. So I think we are being incredibly prudent as we begin to build those funds for those kinds of rainy days or worst case scenarios or things that we don't know may happen today. So
I really like the idea of the decommissioning benefit fund too, that we're finally putting money into that. I'm always thinking, when can we do this? And this is the first opportunity since 2014. So I think this is very, very good as far as risk mitigation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll turn it over to Tim, but before we do that, Mark, you want to give put on the spot a little bit on tell us about yourself.
I can do that if you want. I'm an Omaha native. I'm a Nebraska native, and very proud to be a Nebraska native because I have a great love of this state and the culture and the ethos of this state. I'm a Creighton University graduate, accounting in 1976. I'm a CPA. I served 5 years. I call it a 5-year sentence with KPMG as an auditor and a tax guy. And then I spent the next 33 years plus at Valmont with a variety of financial controller jobs. I was the company treasurer for a few years, 15 years doing mergers and acquisitions. So I have very deep experience in joint ventures, acquisitions, business valuations, those sorts of things, licensing agreements on technology. And I worked with a lot of Mr. Bruckner's ilk at other law firms over the years. Spent my life with investment bankers and lawyers. I have a lot of experience or knowledge of utility structures because Valmont is a heavy industrial manufacturer. We sold a lot of product through the years to OPPD. They were a wonderful customer. We were a wonderful customer buying an awful lot of power. And I dealt with some of those issues through the years. I also understand corrosion technologies and cathodic protection technologies because I acquired a number of those companies and toured a lot more than I acquired, as well as inspection services for wood poles and other structures. The division that I ran had a company doing that very thing, and we did some of that work for OPPD. So I have a lot of, I say, some utility knowledge more than the average bear. And in terms of board service outside of work, I've been literally decades as board members in particularly charities, a couple of high schools in Omaha. I'm a 15-year director of a company in Lincoln, a private company, Lester Electrical. And then to top it all off, I have 40 solid years experience wandering around my house every night, turning off all the lights and computers and televisions that the rest of my family inexplicably leaves turned on, and muttering about power not being free. And that work sadly continues today. So, that's kind of me. I've got 6 children, 6 grandchildren. They scattered to the wind. They're all over the country. And that's my greatest achievement in life, is my family. I love my family. They're wonderful people.
Very good. Thanks so much for that, and then be a valuable addition to the board.
I hope so.
Like. Looking forward to working
I've been
with
very
you.
impressed
Good.
in the week I've spent doing this. I've had 4 meetings. I misspoke this morning.
That's right.
I had a meeting with Mr. Burke last week and Mr. Bruckner, and very impressed. I was very impressed at Fort Calhoun this morning. That was amazing. So yeah,
very good.
I'm looking forward to getting deeper.
Okay, good to hear. All right, thank you very much. With that, item 18 is the President's report. Tim?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the OPPD family. That's also important to me, certainly, and certainly important to the senior team and the rest of the organization. We'll kind of start from the generation side and kind of work our way through the organization. Certainly, in the month of October, Nebraska City 1 and Nebraska City 2 saw a reduction in their capacity factor. Even though the plants had an equipment availability factor of 100%, they were available all month long. And it really has to do with the soft market that's going on and our response to that. And it really is one of the kind of the first historically where we've done some reserve shutdowns to reduce cost for the organization and for our customers, rather than let the units run because of where the market position was on cost. And so the teams are doing incredibly well there. And the same thing occurred in Nebraska City too. Renewable energy for the month was 38.9% of OPPD's retail energy sales. So obviously this time of the year we'll see an increase in that as we move forward. Had a capacity factor of 52.1%. Year to date, our renewables contributed to 29% of OPPD's retail energy sales. My guess is we're going to see that bump up over the next couple months, and we'll be at that 30% that we said we would be at. And the capacity factor is 42.9%. A couple other items, units 4 and 5 at North Omaha. It just speaks to the quality of the work that our teams are doing to keep these units up and available and working both. So as I said, unit 1 and 2 at Nebraska City, but units 4 and 5, who are the units are still active at this point in time, we're at 100% available in the months of October as well. And it speaks to the great quality of John and his team and the work that they're doing to make sure that those units are available for generation during those months. Units 1, 2, and 3 at North Omaha have been converted to natural gas during the wintertime. They're on reserve shutdown because we don't buy capacity, gas capacity during the winter months because of pipeline capability and those kinds of things. A little bit on North Omaha I thought I would share with you is it's kind of our focus on safety, and several directors at Fort Calhoun today heard a little bit about our focus on safety and how we're not necessarily satisfied where we are, but at North Omaha in the month of October they had 11 good catches that were documented during the month, and these are catches that could provide potential hazards, people that were in awkward body positions, that work was stopped and people then were realigned to be in a better body position to protect joints and limbs and soft tissue, a variety of other kinds of chemical exposures that may occur, just checking the surroundings, making sure before we start systems. So these are really important that employees are driving these good catches that they're documenting, and it's another example of the great work that's going on in our fossil plants. I'm going to step to kind of what's going on in the community, and I spoke a little bit about this last month, but October 18th and 19th, we had a Careers in Energy that was held at our OPPD's Elkhorn Service Center. We had more than 180 local middle and high school students that really found out the answer, for themselves about what we do in the utility industry. And typically this event was called Women's in Trades. A couple of years ago, we added the boys to this, the men to this, and in an event that it really begins to continue to pick up steam. So we work with other energy workforce consortium members such as NPPD, Lincoln Electric System, Metropolitan Utilities District, Black Hills Energy, and several of the other Nebraska colleges, universities, and technical schools. And it's just a great opportunity for us to share with them the kinds of jobs and careers that they can have in the utility industry. And then it allows them to begin to think about what kind of educational curriculum they need, what classes they need to take as they're in that junior high or high school or prepping for college. And it's been just a really great opportunity that's been really recognized across the industry, across the state of Nebraska. A matter of fact, we'll continue to have this action or this event at OPPD, but they're also going to have events elsewhere in the state of Nebraska, really based on our lead. So I really think we're leading the way we power the future in some of the work that we're doing. The next one is really our women's network. They had their annual meeting this past month, and several senior managers had to play the Jeopardy game, which is to tell them a little bit more about ourselves. We won't share the outcomes of any of that. But what they did is also do a fundraiser where they provided a Halloween event on a Saturday morning with the Pancake Man, and employees and families and grandkids and children and families could come and essentially have trick or treats, had games and actions, and obviously pancakes on a Saturday morning. The money that they raised went to Make-A-Wish, and it was part of what our women's network is doing to give back to the community, and they're doing some great work. Next in the community, it's really October is kind of the beginning of our month of giving, and it really started in October and it will go through the end of November. But it's really an opportunity for us to focus on the United Way campaign that's going on, but also allow our employees to focus on the Common Fund as well, which allows them to donate to the Common Fund. There's a variety of things. We really say three things. You can donate, which most of the senior managers have participated in some way in donating of items. So if the board wants to vote on those, you can do that. We're trying to raise money. Two is they can fundraise themselves, and each different group is doing different ways to raise money, and then they can volunteer for an organization that they believe is important to the community as well, or one of the United Way organizations. And then the next one, I think we have a video, I think. We do.
Do you want to key it up first? Or
I'm just going to let the video key it up, and then I'll close on that.
Uh-oh. Oh, on the computer. Thank you.
So as you're doing that, I'll key this up.
I think I have it.
Okay.
Questions. Thank you. Students and executives now may be coworkers one day. Those are the goals and possibilities behind a year-long career development model.
This is a program that's been tried and true in Minneapolis and Phoenix, and it was really an opportunity for us to bring this into the energy side of the business, but I think it has application across this whole community.
The Omaha Public Power District exposing high school teens to the jobs available and how to get them.
Be in the moment, be present. Whatever you're doing, things like this, learn from people that you interact with.
18 students are among the first to be a part of what's called the legacy model.
Just a couple months ago, I was headed in a wrong path in my life.
Dulce Mejia, a senior at Omaha Blackburn, says she now has the discipline she's been lacking.
My mom, she's not in the state. She got deported a couple years ago. So, that already was hard enough for my family.
This weekend's lesson, real money in the real world.
We had to act like we were just coming straight out of college, just got a job, and then we had to use that money, our monthly salary, to pick, a house, car, insurance.
I did pretty well. I spent too much on my housing.
Hands-on lessons and networking opportunities.
Very good. Yeah, nice job. Yeah, good questions. Good work.
Thank you very much. Engaging the future of our workforce.
At the end, I was only left with $3 to my name. So, yeah, it's like things can be really difficult, and I feel like they're preparing us for this stuff.
At Metro Community College Fort Omaha campus, Chin Doan, KETV, Newswatch 7.
Actually, we're
we're really taking the lead on this, but we have a variety of other organizations that are partnering with us and will be partnering with us to really help support this. I think this really aligns with a greater community initiative and plan that's going on that was announced earlier this week at the economic luncheon for the Greater Omaha Partnership, and it's really about the future work that the city's doing, and you're going to hear more about that, but it's a great opportunity. Mark and Joyce Cooper and the team, and obviously you saw some of the senior managers attending that event, are doing a great job of making sure that we're playing a great role in the community and in a great part of the community as well. So you'll be hearing more about that as we move forward with that program. And then last, as we do in most of our meetings, we talk about an employee. It just really centers us around the work that we do across our 5,000 square miles in eastern Nebraska. And so we really recognize one of the employees that died in the line of duty. Walter Pond died on January 7, 1983 from injuries received during an underground vault explosion just west of 16th Street and Harney, so not too far from here, by the way. Fellow employee Steve Slatton was also with him in the vault, and he recovered from his injuries. He was 56 years old, had been with OPPD for 30 years at the time of his death. He was known as an expert splicer. He trained OPPD apprentices and even worked with cable manufacturers to ensure OPPD had the best materials possible. He was survived by his wife Kathleen, daughters Diana and Marianne, 5 brothers, 6 sisters, and 3 grandchildren. And again, it's just a company opportunity for us to remember one of the 18 members that died in the line of duty here at OPPD.
All right, thanks for that, Tim, and a lot of good things going on, it sounds like, as usual, so very good. Thanks for that. Now is opportunity for any comment from the public. Anything you want to bring up, feel free to step up and let us hear from you.
David Corbin, Nebraska Sierra Club. First, we're delighted that you're moving forward on renewable energy and wind energy, and heard at the wind and solar conference that not too distant future you'll be reaching 50%. That's wonderful. Also, appreciate the fact that you were present and submitted a plan at the Volkswagen settlement. Happy to say that a lot of the things that you recommended align with what the Nebraska Sierra Club recommended on that particular settlement, and very pleased about that. I do want to just mention one thing about solar, because I still keep hearing things about how solar people are kind of freeloaders on the system, and I'd like to just talk a little bit about the value of solar, because I appreciate the fact that I was one of the members of the public that was invited to your forums to talk about solar, and that you're going to be announcing a solar project, I believe, next month. But I do want to point out that the advantage of solar, and when you're talking about copying what other or picking up good programs elsewhere, LES, for example, gives incentives to people who put solar on facing west to help with peak, which is the similar kind of thing that you're doing with the NEST program to cut down on peak energy. Solar is excellent for that. Solar is produced right where it's used, right where it's produced. So it actually cuts down on transmission and load on the system, and is very excellent for doing that. It provides, as does wind, energy for decades at a fixed price. You know what you're going to pay for it, which is once it's installed, you don't pay for it at all. And the best thing from the public power point of view is it democratizes energy. It spreads it out so that it's not all in one place. And that's what public power is about, having the public involved in it. So I hope that you will continue to look at those well-established values of solar, other than just perceiving it as what happens when somebody, whether net metering or not, is as putting solar on their home. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Harmon. I'm a former employee of the Omaha Public Power District. I was discharged March 23rd, 2017. I have not totally had a clear answer on my dischargement. I do understand that me and the supervisor did have a disagreement. I understand I did drop the F-bomb. I have been more than apologetic. I've even completed an anger management class. Yes, the union has failed me, but there are a lot of underlying issues in your investigation that I don't feel had much light. And also these one-sided investigations, there's no way to investigate anything that way. Taking one statement and then you go whatever direction you want. Me and the said supervisor disagreed on the starting of Unit 4 at North Omaha. He wanted me to deviate from OPPD's own procedure on a rolling pre-warm. He said to roll the turbine between 300 and 400 RPM when the procedure says between 1 to 300 RPM. I've spoke with a former GE representative who works as a contractor for OPPD, and he agreed with me other than condoning that I did drop the F-bomb. Me and said supervisor have had a rocky past. He's called me Fat Harmon, not Matt Harmon, for 9 years. My entire 9 years of service to the company. I know he probably had some stress of his own stemming from an arrest he had in Tennessee earlier that year. I, myself, in the months of January and February alone, worked 208 hours of overtime on top of my 40 hours. Didn't bat an eye. My better half, losing both her parents in the last 2 years, that was some added stress that we'd taken on a handicapped family member of hers. I had a lot of work going on in my house with a contractor to accommodate said handicapped person. I did, in fact, have a altercation with the driver on the road. I have a commercial driver's license, so I hold driving to quite a high standard. But even after I was relieved of my position, another supervisor, Mr. Tim Steffens, called a prospective employer of mine and told him exactly why I got
30
fired.
seconds.
And that's against the law. And that supposedly was investigated. I get it that the gentleman, Mr. Dave Geck at NRG, doesn't want to disclose that phone call. But if Mr. Steffens admitted to it openly to other operators, I don't see where Mr. Geck's, what he can contribute. A lot of reports say I was insubordinate. I may have been defiant. I still did what I was told to do and followed the orders.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is somebody gonna look into that?
I will just share with the board, Mr. Harmon and I had an opportunity to talk a couple board meetings ago, and actually asked Mart Sedke to meet with him at that board meeting, and we took his concerns or issues. We went through an investigation internally with the HR group and our team, and we found no reason to reverse any actions that we did at that time. So
I would also add that we asked an external law firm who doesn't do business with OPPD to review our investigation, and they found that the investigation was
Matt, I know you would have replied, you know what, these are personnel matters that probably, you know, you knew you were stepping up at a public forum, but I really don't want to discuss personnel matters or anything like that here at a public meeting, so appreciate that. Let's leave it at that, and Matt, anything else you got, for sure we'll talk to you, in, you know, private and whatever you need to, whatever recourse. There's a lot of legal issues here we're probably getting into that I don't want to get into. So thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Victoria Wagner. I've been volunteering with the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign. So I brought a fraction of the postcards that I've started collecting on canvassing in our neighborhoods. I'm in zip code 68111. What we're working toward is getting you to adjust the strategic directives to include 100% clean energy. I'd like to thank the new director for coming on board, and I'm ecstatic because I'm a fellow Blue Jay. I graduated in '04 from Creighton. I just wanted to speak to something that you had mentioned, which was that Valmont Industries was one of our biggest customers for OPPD. But what I don't think a lot of folks in the public know is that you lost a huge customer in Facebook, who's now building their own wind energy farm to provide energy for their corporation. So we're kind of behind the times on providing clean, renewable energies, and we need to look at moving forward with doing a better job of providing that so that we can attract more industry to Nebraska rather than seeing the flight that we are with young nonprofit professionals. With that, I'll offer the cards.
Thanks, ma'am. And just don't want to correct you, but the Facebook is locating here, and because of our renewable energy and our plan.
I am aware of that, sir. However, they are building their own wind farm, and that is a fact. They are going to be building their own wind farm to provide their own power source, and they're not going to be providing that to our grids. So we're not going to see a benefit from them.
Yeah.
No, they are.
They are going to be doing that?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
Yep. Thanks. Anyone else?
I think Jay wants to say something.
All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.